Defund DOC is a movement in belief. Our mission is to stop oppression, exploitation, and bring about relief. Raise awareness, open eyes to the corruption in our midst. It's a higher way of thinking, but I'm sure you'll get the gist. Corrupt politicians and slimy administrators want to label us rebels and radical demonstrators. We are the ones who aren't scared, the voices that were never there, the ones willing to fight when no one else cared, the ones who stood up and finally said this isn't right, the only ones pushing back against the bureaucratic might. Support us if you can and listen for a few, because ultimately Defund DOC is for you.
Welcome back to the Defund DOC podcast. Today we're tackling a question that digs deep into the soul of our nation. Can a country that claims to be God-fearing truly allow a system of mass incarceration and prisoner exploitation to thrive? I'm Linda, and with me is my co-host Daniel Sims.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Defund DOC podcast. Welcome. I'm excited to tackle this subject with the esteemed Linda and address this major hypocrisy that we're facing in this modern day kleptocracy called the United States of America.
All right, let's jump right in. The United States boasts a long history of religious freedom, with Christianity and Judaism being major influences. These core beliefs emphasize justice, helping the downtrodden, and treating others with compassion. Yet, here we stand grappling with mass incarceration system that exploits prison labor and disproportionately affects minorities and the poor. Does this not seem like a massive contradiction?
Absolutely. See, that's the thing. When we come to this country, it appears to say one thing and then do another. The fact is, in this country, there's more people incarcerated than any other country in the whole world. And every single inmate incarcerated here is considered a slave. We have the largest slave-holding nation in the history of humankind. And also, we have the largest wage step kleptocracy in all human history. And at the same time, in the same breath, we got people alleging that this is a God-fearing country and that this is the land of the free. It's a hypocrisy, and I'm glad that we're pointing it out, and we need more people to tune in and be a part of the struggle. So thank you, Linda.
Absolutely. William Quigley, in his work titled Prison Work, Wages, and Catholic Social Thought, argues that even for prisoners, decent work for decent wages is a matter of justice. Angela Chan, in her Huffington Post article, America Never Abolished Slavery, exposes the harsh reality that forced prison labor fuels corporations like Target, Revlon, and Whole Foods. This exploitation directly contradicts the principles of both Christianity and Judaism.
Yeah, it does, and it's really sad. I mean, if you actually boil it down to what it truly is, it's a massive system of suffering and a system that was created on hate. You know, this system, whether people want to admit it or not, it was founded on racism, overt racism. Back in the 30s, it was okay to be segregated amongst other people and other races, and it was just an injustice upon the society at that time. And so this is when the system actually started, mass incarceration. But it was actually in the 70s when it exploded under Nixon. And Nixon was a renowned racist. He actually talked about how his secretary that was in his cabinet said that they wanted to arrest and imprison all hippies and black people, but they couldn't do that due to the Constitution. So what they did was they outlawed all the drugs that the hippies and the minorities used. And that's when the war on drugs started, and that's when the explosion of mass incarceration started happening. So, yeah, you're touching on a very, very, very sore subject for America. They haven't grappled with it, Linda. I've rarely ever seen it talked about on mass media, any of the legacy media channels. Nobody wants to talk about it. But now, with Americans having the opportunity to actually listen to those that are being oppressed and those that are disadvantaged and those that are poor, and like me, ex-foster child, that had nobody to stand up for me when I was a child, I just continually got incarcerated. And that's happening to millions of our fellow Americans. The largest segment right now being incarcerated is our veterans. So this is a plague on our country, and I don't want to see my child be enslaved, and I don't want to see my descendants being enslaved, and I'm probably sure that most of the people listening don't want that either. So I'm very thankful that people are listening and that they're starting to share these podcasts with their friends and family, because just simply listening is an act of activism, and I appreciate that.
Exactly. Politicians often use fear-mongering to demonize those caught in the criminal justice system. They paint a picture of super predators needing to be locked away forever, while conveniently ignoring the underlying issues like poverty, lack of opportunity, and mental health struggles. Studies by Kate Dice and Steve Coe, like The Politics of Sentencing Reform, demonstrate how fear-mongering has fueled the growth of mass incarceration.
Wow, you hit the nail on the head right there, Linda. See, that's the thing. Mass media and the politicians have been in bed together for decades. It wasn't until the proliferation of news sources of media like social media, podcasts, blogs, where the truth about what's really happening to our sons and daughters in the criminal justice system. Everybody wants to joke about how the government can't do anything right, this and that. Well, I'm telling you right now, they're doing something right. They're enslaving our sons and daughters, and they're doing it really effectively. It was in the Spokane News Review just not even that long ago where Correctional Industries at this facility made $110 million profit. And I actually did the math, and to incarcerate everybody at this prison cost the state around $33 million. So just at this prison alone, they made almost like $70 million profit or more just on the prisoner labor at this facility. Now, every facility across this whole country is stealing the wages of our people and getting away with it, and they're telling the taxpayer, hey, we're taking these people off the street, but in reality, they're enslaving us. And as a slave, I thank people like Linda and the listeners that are listening. You guys are actually doing a service to us and our communities to speak out. This is the modern-day Underground Railroad. These podcasts that you're listening to, you're a part of the Underground Railroad and a part of history.
We've seen countless studies show that mass incarceration doesn't actually deter crime or make communities safer. In fact, it often creates more problems by traumatizing inmates and making it harder for them to reintegrate into society upon release. Studies by Joan Petersilia and others definitively show that mass incarceration has a minimal impact on crime rates.
That is so correct. The thing is that I'm surrounded by violence. I'm surrounded by guard brutality, surrounded by corruption, surrounded by oppression. I mean, you're pressured on all sides. Then you add the fact that all my family is indifferent except for a couple of people in my family. So you're dealing with all these different pressures. You're surrounded by all sides and just kept oppressed in this state of just feeling so depressed, and you're just getting traumatized by all of it. You know, you're surrounded by this violence, and you have to acclimate to this culture of prison, when in reality it would be so much easier if they were just to have people come here, get treatment, get a career, and then let them go back to society to be with their family and friends like we have suggested.
We are going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll dive deeper into this ethical and religious arguments against mass incarceration and explore solutions for a more just and humane system. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's get back to our conversation about the morality of mass incarceration in the United States. Academic advocates and activists have been raising the deficiencies of mass incarceration for years, demanding defunding prisons. Studies like Defunding State Prisons by W. David Ball point to the ineffectiveness of our system. Our troubled people are being severely oppressed and traumatized by prison life. The government widely neglects the mental health of prisoners. There are countless examples that have been documented, like the systemic sexual assault, extreme violence, and constant transfers that further traumatize inmates.
Yes, Linda, that's correct. This place is just rife with systemic abuses, systemic oppression, just constantly using, like my friend recently, his name John, and he had been in a cell for a year, and him and his cellie were getting along good. They were just going to work every day in here and minding their own business. All of a sudden, he had an interaction with somebody in here that has some power. I won't name no names. But all of a sudden, his cellie gets moved out of his cell. He gets moved to a top bunk. A new guy gets moved into there that he doesn't even get along with, and basically turned his cell upside down. It's just like another check off the checkbox, you know, like it's no big deal to them, but it totally disrupts our lives when they move people cell to cell. And as I've already spoke about numerous times about the diesel therapy that I've been given over 30 times. I mean, I'm traumatized. Every time I see a cop come anywhere close to me, they come too deep towards me. I literally start breaking out in a sweat. I start shaking. And this is because of the trauma that they have inflicted upon me in regards to solitary confinement and diesel therapy and cell changes. This is what is inflicted upon us. I mean, literally start shaking and sweat because of the trauma. And this is happening to every single offender. It's just outrageous.
The lack of adequate education and rehabilitation programs within the prison leaves people completely unprepared to re-enter society.
Absolutely. That's another sore subject. You know, when it comes to this system, I have numerous friends that have been incarcerated for multiple years. Two of my friends, I won't say their names here, they were locked up from the age of 16 almost to the age of 35, 36, and they got out with nothing. No degree, no technical college degrees. I mean, they had no skills, nothing. So they're getting released after all these years, and the only mentality they have is criminal culture, prison culture. They didn't even use drugs on the street, you know, and then they came to prison and started developing drug addiction. So the trauma is real, and not allowing people to have just a minimum level of educational opportunity, it's like a violation of human rights, you know, and the case law actually permits it. It says in the case law that inmates are not constitutionally protected to have rehabilitation. So there's definitely a lot of anger on the prison advocacy side that they're getting away with keeping us uneducated. This is exactly the same thing they did to the slaves back before the Civil War, and this goes hand in hand with what we were discussing in regards to King Solomon, saying that nothing new is happening under the sun. They're doing the exact same thing that they did to the slaves before the Civil War, except they're doing it to a different class of people, and this class happens to be stigmatized and prejudiced by society because they've done something bad. But we are your sons and daughters. We are your fellow citizens. We deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And you know what? Even if you don't believe that we are entitled to that, I promise you, your sons or daughters are going to be coming through here in the next 50 years because half of this country is going to have a felony record within 50 years.
The unparalleled exploitation of prison labor is aberrant to many Americans. This systemic robbery is detailed in Genevieve LeBaron's work titled Slaves of the State, American Prison Labor Past and Present.
Yeah, this is a robbery. This is a theft. Don't make no mistake. We are being robbed by our government for our wages. This is our property. You have a property right to your labor. You have been endowed by your Creator to have the unalienable right to your life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, in that is your right to labor. You have the right to your labor. And when the state comes with force and takes it by force or coercion or duress, that is a violation of natural rights. That's a violation of biblical rights. That's a violation of the Torah. That's a violation of human rights. That's a violation of moral law. That's a violation of ethics. So, yeah, absolutely, Linda, it's an atrocity. It's a human rights violation. We need more people to be a part of the struggle.
And all of this is happening under the noses of powerful religious communities. Both Christianity and Judaism have strong principles against oppression. The Old Testament and Torah are full of passages urging followers to help the downtrodden. Isaiah 58:6 instructs us to release the bonds of wickedness and let the oppressed go free. Matthew 25:36, spoken by Jesus himself, tells us to visit the imprisoned.
Absolutely. And it goes hand in hand with what he spoke about in the New Testament in regards to forgiveness, to treating people with dignity, respect, love. And the fact is, as a Christian, born again, baptized while in prison, I have the credibility to speak on how badly our people are being treated. I mean, this should be a crime. I mean, let's give you one quick example. A guy steals a car. He gets arrested. He gets put into a pen. He gets stripped down naked. He gets put into a unit full of violence. He has to fight for food. He gets small quantities of food. Then he gets a 5-year prison sentence of slavery. And then he gets stripped down naked every time he gets moved around inside the prison. He gets small amounts of food every day. He gets very small visits with his family and friends, maybe once, twice a week, if you're lucky, if your family is not so prejudiced against you like my family. Then this is the trauma. I mean, I'm not even including the guard brutality. You know, these guards, they look at us like we're like little peasants. Their prejudice is so deep. I mean, they would wish that we only got fed water and bread and slept on the concrete floor and had to work 20-something hours a day. Same with some of these people on social media. The hate that my co-host gets online. We're living in a fallen world for sure. When your own fellow Christians believe it justified that you should be enslaved and exploited and kept in severe bondage for decades. Essentially, I got a de facto death sentence. And, there's multiple people like me. But anyway, back to the reference of the man with the stolen car. So he gets that 5 years of sentence. And all that time that he's doing, he's just surrounded by this violence. He's surrounded by this car brutality. He's surrounded by all this corruption, this oppression, this hate. This man that was a nonviolent, maybe he was a first-time offender, maybe he was just out for a joyride. I mean, there's no excuse for stealing a car, but it's a big, bad decision. Yes, we could agree completely that he deserves some kind of societal punishment for that, but the trauma does not proportion to what he did. That's what I'm saying. The trauma that is being inflicted upon our people for their crimes is not proportionate to what they have done to get the sentence. See what I'm saying? When you steal a car, you impact this person perhaps not getting to work, perhaps not be able to go to their appointments. Yeah, it's a property crime. They've been hassled from the normal day-to-day life, and they should be compensated and receive justice for that. But to equate what has happened to that person that had their car stolen to what the state is going to inflict upon the person that stole the car is insane. The proportionality is so out of whack. I mean, I'm in here for an alleged drug deal, robbery gone bad, alleged, and yet the state is essentially murdering me. They gave me 34 years, and I might not make it out of here alive. As me and Linda talk about, I've been going to medical in regards to potentially having a stroke. So the state is essentially murdering me. I don't care how you want to put it. There is a higher power that will hold people accountable for this injustice that is happening across this country. Whether you want to sit back and just be indifferent to it, boom, you're guilty by passivity, which means by indifference. And if you're not part of the struggle, if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem, and you are part of the hate of this system. And you need to get on board. You need to get a part of the struggle.
Throughout the scriptures, God implores followers to relieve the suffering of the oppressed. Psalm 82:3 urges us to defend the weak, the poor, and the fatherless. The reality is that our prison system disproportionately incarcerates these very groups, as documented in Tara Harrivel and Paul Wright's book, Prison Nation.
Absolutely. One of my very, very esteemed fellow inmates, Paul Wright, he was incarcerated here in Washington State. And this guy is a very educated man. This guy has actually created the renowned, esteemed magazine or newspaper, Prison Legal News and Criminal Legal News. And he is absolutely right. They're preying on the weak, on the poor, on the minorities, those that don't have power. If I had power, listen, if I was not grown up in a foster care system, if I was not poor, if I had parents that would go to my advocacy and defend me, contacting legislators, contacting judges, I would be out of prison. I wouldn't be here. I made a bad decision. I don't deserve to die in prison, and there's millions of people just like us. I just hope that someday our country, our people, will come to the realization that this system is full of hate and it needs to be abolished. It has to be defunded.
We as a nation have allowed politicians to label and stigmatize our fellow citizens. Politicians use people's bad decisions or mental health struggles as a pretext to enslave them. Ezekiel 22:29 condemns those who trouble the poor and needy. Our government should be in the business of helping and restoring people, not exploiting them.
Absolutely, Linda. The thing is that there is no good when you enslave a people. The only prison reform I've been seeing lately, after Floyd was murdered by the police and people came out into the streets and protested, the only prison reform that has happened since then is they've increased the amount of money that our people can send to us without it being taxed. So I'm standing in the line the other day in Peel Line, and somebody's asking me, hey, aren't you happy that they just enacted this legislation to allow our family and friends to put money on our commissary account without extracting more money from them through taxes? And I said, absolutely not. First of all, where are they going to get this money? And they're like, oh, my family and friends. Okay, so you're saying that you're okay with the state extracting more money from your community rather than giving you your fair due for your labor. That's what we want. We want them to take their foot off our neck. That's it. Don't give us new ways of having our family and friends buy us food packages or having money sent to us, because I don't want my family and friends to be burdened with my bad decision. I want to have the ability to have a minimum wage for my labor, which I am entitled to, and to have an education and to be treated with dignity and respect. And that's just not happening.
Public opinion has been wrongly swayed by politicians and prison authorities, perpetuating the myth of super predators needing to be incapacitated. They built a system reliant on slave labor. Millions of prisoners are praying for relief from the suffering, as echoed in Psalms 9:9. The Lord will also be a high tower for the oppressed.
Amen. You're speaking the truth today, Linda. The thing is that there are millions of Americans across this whole country praying to the Lord for relief from society, from the way that society is treating us. How outrageous is that to even think that you listening right now as a citizen are either indifferent, complicit, or a part of the solution. There's only 3 ways that you can be in this society today: indifferent, complicit, or a part of the solution. And we really need more people to be part of the solution. I know that God has been a part of my life, and I pray to Him every day, daily, to release the yoke of bondage that is upon our people. And I believe that someday He will. And whether that's today, tomorrow, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, my voice today is going to speak echoes through time to those people that need to be our advocates and be a part of the struggle. And I just pray that people listen to this and that it touches their heart and they have a come to God moment and get right. They're either indifference, they're complicity, or they come be a part of the solution.
The New Testament emphasizes the importance of standing up for what's right, even if it goes against the grain. Timothy 1:9 through 10 condemns slave traders, highlighting the biblical stance against slavery. Galatians 3:28 emphasizes that there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free man, reminding us of our shared humanity in Christ.
Amen. Actually, in that New Testament, they also talk about slave traders as being sinful. So those are chronic sins. And slave trading, slave holding, that's what our country is doing. Don't get it mistaken. We are a slave nation. Slavery has never went away. And God will hold you accountable for being indifferent or complicit.
Prisoners are suffering deeply and need champions to advocate for them. Only through united action can we achieve reform. We urge you to join our mission at defunddoc.net, subscribe to our free podcast and blog for ongoing education on these injustices. Every new subscriber receives a free digital copy of one of our books, Defund DOC, Turning All Prisons into Treatment and Career Centers, or The Art of Living, Everything You Need to Achieve Success in Life and Business I Learned in Prison.
Absolutely, and we'll gladly give it to you. The more people that listen, the more people that read the blogs. Look, we don't want you to do anything but be a part of our organization in regards to listening to our podcast and reading the blog. That's it. We're not asking for much. That's not a lot. Just being a part of the struggle that way is sufficient. You know, obviously there's more higher ways that you can be a part of it. And, you know, that goes with as you get more educated in the harms that are happening to our people. But for now, all we're asking is for you to be a part of the conversation. Invite your family and friends. We need more people. That's what the whole thing is. You know, we're giving away our books, our intellectual property for free just to have you a part of this struggle, you know, and maybe that's speaking to your heart. Maybe that shows that, hey, I'm sacrificing, we're sacrificing royalties just to have you a part of this, just to have you part of this conversation. Please be a part of our struggle.
We're also excited to launch a groundbreaking new reality show, Love in Prison Activism. The show aims to inspire reform by humanizing prisoners and their loved ones. Showcasing their struggles and activism will hopefully change the narrative and pave the way for true change. You don't need prior experience, just a love for the American people. Everyone is invited to audition or participate in rallies and protests. The crowdfunding launches on July 4th, aligning with our nation's fight for independence. This new fight seeks to realign U.S. policy with the people's demands, ending prison slavery, treatment and career-focused prisons, and reducing sentence for nonviolent offenses. Subscribe to defunddoc.net for updates on the show.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to get this reality show up and running. We're going to be getting film crews and trying to get network distribution through A&E, MTV, numerous different networks we're trying to get on there. We need people that have experience in filmmaking and editing video footage and reality show network distribution. We greatly need people. This is a huge undertaking. We can't do it without you. We really need you. This is a all hands on deck call, emergency. The American people, our faith demands it.
You can further support this mission by purchasing items from our branded collections available on our website, Cadmus Publishing coming soon, Etsy, and our TikTok store. All profits go towards advancing these social justice efforts. Remember, supporting this cause is an investment in your future. Based on mass incarceration's historical growth, you or your descendants have a 50-50 chance of ending up in prison within the next 50 years.
Absolutely, Linda. We need more people to be part of the struggle. And, the thing is that even just buying a hooded sweatshirt, we have a hooded sweatshirt with Lady Liberty covering her eyes, saying end mass slavery. That is a very catchy looking, against the grain image. So, just buying that or just being a part of the conversation. This is a very important topic, a very important mission, and we're very excited to launch these product lines, and we greatly appreciate people getting them and being a part of it.
We also have a limited time offer. Purchase the Supporters Book Bundle containing all 3 of Daniel's digital books, Hopeless in Seattle, A Foster Kid's Manifesto, Defund DOC, and The Art of Living, for the price of 1 book at $14.99. Buying the physical copies would cost double that amount. Plus, it helps us further the social justice campaign. You can get yours at defunddoc.net.
Absolutely. Please get it, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on the defunddoc.net podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
See ya.